Well, welcome everybody for another episode. I'm out here in my doghouse. At least that's what I call it. Just a couple of changes what I meant the other day. When I was talking about Alzheimer's, I didn't mean my aunt, I meant my cousin. And also, my wife took care of her mother for 2 years that had Alzheimer's. We sacrificed ourselves so she could do it. She lived 22 miles away. She'd leave Sunday around 5 and not get back until Friday around 6 to 8, which was fine. And it was a sacrifice, but I'd do it over again. And this is where it gets interesting. I didn't really ever care for my mother-in-law because I was the bad guy before she even knew me. Her family got along with me great, but she was not sexually abused, but mentally abused. So anytime you had a stepfather step in, it was bad. She never liked any stepfather. But towards the end, she tried to get me to move into her basement, which was interesting. My wife took care of her for 2 years, took her to Utah, her and her two sisters to take her to Utah to the medical center there about once every 2 or 3 months. And they do things that are a little different. You know, to us, it's funny. But in the long run, it's sad. Like one time they took her to Utah. On the way back, they stopped to get some gas and some munchies, and they all went into the store. And when they come out, they seen their mom sitting by the car, and they asked her, "Why did you come out here?" And she said, "Well, somebody had to take care of the kids. There was no kids." You know, and she'd do things like that. One day, when Darlene was there, and that's my wife, her mom was looking out the window and asked Darlene where her mother went. Years and years ago, they used to have a house next to them. The house not there. And all because she could see was an empty lot. Sad. Another time, she got lost somewhere, and they went to find her. And a shoe store that used to be in the town that she always went to when she was younger, she took a pair of Crocs to get them fixed. You know, it's sad. I know I got to go through this with my wife eventually too. This isn't poor me. This isn't poor anybody. This is how Alzheimer's work, and people just want to forget about it. Well, some of us like me can't. It's there and it's going to be there. My brother-in-law, he had Alzheimer's. And I'm not making any of this up. This is real stuff here. He spent 20 years in L.A. County. Good part of that 20 years was a L.A. County probation officer. My cousin, actually in Rexburg, Idaho, is one of them that got the nursing program going for, at that time, Ricks College. Later, she went and was over the nurses at the medical center at Utah Hospital, or Utah College and Hospital. So smart people are usually the ones that this happens to. But like I was saying, I really never got along with my mother-in-law because I was a bad person to her. But you got to set that stuff aside. My wife had a chance to help, and she did. And it was my idea to do this to start with. So I had to put my differences aside, what I thought, to do the right thing. And that's part of the problem we have today, is people don't want to do the right thing. They would rather not be inconvenienced. And sometimes doing the right thing is an inconvenience. 5 days a week without her around, you know, that's a big deal to me. It was a big deal to her, but it's something that we could do and we did do. My mother took care of my cousin for several years before she finally had to go into a nursing home. Didn't live with her, but she lived across from her and helped out things. And you see this all over, not just Alzheimer's, but other things. When you step up to the plate, you feel better. You're doing the right thing. Too many people just don't want to do the right thing. I had a guy I was doing fire extinguishers for, and that I could have been made more money somewhere else. I wasn't making bad, but I sacrificed a little bit more money to help him. He was an older gentleman. Help him out. And his son eventually took over after his dad passed away. That was still kind of a sacrifice because I could have been out there making more money, but I decided I was going to help where I could help. No, I ain't this great guy that sacrifices the whole world. But sometimes you have to do the right thing. Even my relatives, some of them, they don't do the right thing. They do what's convenient, and who cares? And all of us have relatives like that too. But I just can't get over saying it enough. Do the right thing. You know, when I was going to school, and it was almost a 50-mile bus ride from 7th to 12th grade, one way. That's a true fact. Going into Arco, Idaho, the first city ever to be lit by atomic energy. But it was rough. It was a sacrifice, but I loved living out in the middle of nowhere. It was great for me. The majority of the people could not have handled it. But in some ways it was still a sacrifice. I wasn't around a whole bunch of people at any time. And today I don't like to be around a lot of people. I like to be around people, but big crowds I just don't get. We'd go to Vegas a couple of times, and I always had an hour to 2 hours to settle down and get used to it because of all the people. I couldn't just walk out there and, oh, it's okay now. It took me a bit to settle down. Once I did, it was fine. So, maybe once again, it wasn't a great sacrifice, but I did have to sacrifice what I was used to do what I was doing then. My parents, they sacrificed a lot too in life. I wouldn't want any other parents than the ones I had. And, you know, everybody has their own political views in our family and stuff like that. But I have a relation that nobody would ever been on their side, or very few people, and that was Jefferson Davis. I'm definitely not a Confederate by any means. Even if I was back there, I wouldn't have been. But, you know, you can't choose your relatives. But Mom and Dad would do almost anything for us. Now, you got to realize my dad had 12 kids. Mom had 10. Yes. And nieces and nephews and great nieces and nephews, 5, 6 deep. Probably over 200 throughout the country. Fact, not fiction. My opinions are my opinions, and I'm going to start getting into that a little bit. This is out for me, and I'm going to love it. If I have no viewers to 100 viewers, it don't matter to me. I just want to get out there and have some fun and put out my opinion, because my opinion needs to be heard at times. And yeah, I'm Dad's number 11 and Mom's number 9 in pecking order. So I was towards the bottom. I got brothers and sisters, you know, in the 80s, their 80s, 70s. So we've been around for a long time. None of us are famous. None of us go out and cause problems. And you know, out of 12 kids, because of how we were raised, we weren't beat, but you knew what was wrong and what was right. None of the 12 ever been to prison. A couple of them's been to jail for a few days here and there for some stupid reason or another that was their fault. But none of us have been in prison. Now, some of my, and it's not a whole lot either, but I've had some nieces and nephews, it's mainly a couple of nephews. They'd gone to prison, but their parents was really lenient with them. And that's where they wound up. Not for a long period of time or anything, but that goes to show you a little discipline. And I don't mean violence, because violence is not called for. You know, and that's just the way we were raised. That's like, I grew up around guns. Even before we first grade, you know, you knew what gun safety was and how to handle. If you didn't, you got a boot in your butt. You learned what it meant and the significance of it. Yeah, I know people are anti-guns, but if you're going to have guns around, they got to learn young. Don't wait. The younger, the better. You know, if I would have ever pointed a gun at anybody, I would have got willow tea, which is a nice willow on your butt. Mom could take that willow, and it really didn't hurt. She'd snap it, but you thought you were being abused big time, and it really never hurt. I mean, if it could, but the way she did it, just didn't. But, you know, as kids, you didn't realize that, and that was bad. You learned. And I see people abuse their kids. I've been around people that have, and it's sad. Violence, whether it's kid or anywhere else in life, violence is not the thing to do. because it's just not. I grew around people that has actually murdered people and gone, not my family, murdered people and gone to prison for it. I've been around people that actually, literally, because something happened to a brother or sister, actually wound up killing somebody because they mentally lost it. I grew up around people and family members that are into drugs or were into drugs. I didn't have a lot to do with them, but they're there. And I'll admit it. I think drugs are something that probably in every family, but it's kept quiet a lot. That's like, I have a sister-in-law. Now, if something went wrong with one of her kids or whatever, you're not going to hear about it. She won't say a thing about it. And her mom or her dad and my wife's dad wasn't sacrilegious by any means, but he smoked and that all the time. And this lady, my wife's sister at the eulogy, said how religious of a man he was. You know, you can't hide what a person was. Am I religious? Yeah. Do I go to church? No, I don't. But you always got to know whether you're a religious person, whether you believe in God, which I do, or if you do not believe in God, which is everybody's right in this world to do also, is we all recognize there is evil. That's something to think about, regardless of who you are on this earth. You know there is evil out there. The problem is, how do you, as an individual, react to evil? I've seen people that abuse kids, which I would never, ever, ever do. And to me, and most people, that's evil. I know YouTube on here sometimes don't like a lot of things being said, but it needs to be said. When you out there doing evil, and evil don't have a political party. Evil is evil 100%. Evil don't care whether you're religious. Evil don't care if you don't believe in God. Evil will try to persist in your life regardless of what you think or want to do. You have to fight it day in and day out. Whether you believe in God or not, evil is there. So remember, always remember that you're the one that controls yourself. You control whether you're evil or good. And most people in this world are good. I love to get to know more people. I love to get to know more people's feelings. Because none of us is perfect. And we all have to listen. Thanks for listening. Bye.